Hi, I'm Jamie Sharp, candidate number 8339, and I'll be answering the first question, which is, in what way does your media product use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? The first area which we looked into challenging typical conventions of the thriller genre is our location. We decided to set it in a rural, isolated field instead of your inner city typical thriller setting. Despite this, we did have some link to the city, which was the gunman himself and his car. The car we used was a Mini Cooper, and this is quite a modern car that you probably find a city businessman to have. We purposely set it in the field to firstly emphasise isolation. We also did it to challenge the typical conventions of the thriller genre. This also might encourage film companies to work with us because it's a new and fresh idea. We purposely set it in a location that you might typically find in your local area. We did this so that the audience would be quite alarmed when they see this, as they could easily find themselves in a similar situation. Next, we set it in broad daylight and kind of positive, happy weather. We did this again to challenge the typical conventions of having rain or thunder or general dark atmosphere. This again highlights how isolated the victim was, and it lulls them into a false sense of security. Aside from the film itself, we challenged the typical forms and conventions of the thriller genre and all film genres with our film poster and our DVD cover. We did this by using a negative picture of the location that we used on. We didn't use any of the lead actors or any actors at all on it, which is quite unusual.
Hi, I'm Tom, and I'm going to be addressing the question, how does your media product represent particular social groups? You'll notice as well, in the spirit of the media project, I'm actually wearing the same costume as I did when I portrayed my character in the thriller opening. This is mainly because I just wanted to explain why we chose these clothes. Mostly it was because we wanted to portray a young character, so a youth, but not a youth in the sense that adults might perceive them today, which is your hoodie, troublemaker. I'm not sure what adults would, the negative stereotype that's been created nowadays. We wanted to go against that, and so we thought a black jacket and jeans would be appropriate, as it create the black of the jacket. It's a neutral colour, so we don't know whether this character is good or bad. The jeans, again, for a casual feel to the character, but also wanted to make him non-threatening, so that, you know, when it's not the same as if you see a hoodie on the street, you'll generally cross the road to avoid them. We wanted this character to be someone you could meet on the street and maybe have a conversation with. You know, a young man, but he's also probably an intellectual. He has a bit more about him. You know, just again, really going against the negative stereotype. We also represented a perception of adults in the form of the gunman. He's a 40-something male in a suit. We wanted to show something we had vested interest in as young filmmakers ourselves, and as we are of the age of the young male character we're trying to put across to the audience. We want to show our perception of adults, like how adults have this perception of young people. We want to show what the young people may think of adults. So we had this faceless character, this very intimidating, elusive character. You know, we made sure we never showed his face to create this frightening idea that he could be anyone. The fact that he's a killer, you know, emphasise the idea that he could be anyone, anytime, following you, and he can just jump out and kill you. What we managed to incorporate successfully also was the idea of binary opposition, and that is obviously the idea of young versus old, which is a popular topic of debate in today's society with you know, a lot of adults complaining about hoodies on the street. We're obviously going against that with our two characters. But we also wanted to show that we had vested interest in creating these characters as young filmmakers ourselves. Sticking with the idea of binary opposition, another thing on top of the young versus old idea is the classic good versus evil. You know, you've got this solitary character, the young man. He's lying in a field. The odds are definitely against him. You know, he's isolated. He's alone. He's young, which we have tried to portray as, you know, the fact that he is a youth is a disadvantage in itself. The gunman is obviously an adult. He has experience, like wisdom, certain skills that the young man won't have. So again, it's the idea he's older and more dangerous, and you know, he's got a bit more about him. But that itself makes him a threatening presence, and he's obviously characterised as evil. You know, he's very serious. The suit's intimidating. You know, the fact that he's holding a gun. The gun is incredibly symbolic in itself. It's a weapon of death, and it can, you know, alter history just by killing. You know, just by using it, you can completely change everything. Which is the idea of this, in the fact that the young man's obviously got himself into a lot of trouble, which is actually shown in our viral marketing campaign, which we will go into more detail in later. But part of this marketing campaign was that we've created a Facebook page for the character in the opening. His name's Joe Moore, and we've decided that, again, using Facebook is a great way to represent a social group, because it shows him again as a young man using Facebook, networking with his friends. We also decided to create, you know, because the gunman won't be interested in the trivialities of a Facebook page, because that's more associated with young people, we thought that the gunman might have possibly a web page, a website, a formal website for his company that he works for. You know, for example, the company that you could maybe email if you have a problem, in which case this young man is the problem, and he needs to be eliminated. And I think through this we have successfully established and anchored our characters in real social groups. It also makes them believable as well, which again, as Jamie has said with the location, what we're focusing on, what we're really trying to hit home is the idea of realism. We want to create almost like a round-the-corner feel to our production. The fact that, you know, it's frightening because it's so local. And we think that, again, social groups are an important part of everyday life, and it needs to be addressed in our thriller opening. The third question that I'm going to field is, what kind of media institution might distribute your media product and why? Well, the first thing that I think we have to establish with our media product is, it is not a big budget blockbuster film. It is an independent production, and if we were to go on from our 2 minutes of opening, we would continue with the budget we have, which is not much. It's a low budget independent film, almost like an art house production. You know, the reason we are making the film is not to make vast amounts of money. It is because we enjoy making films and we want to make an impression on the audience. So in the spirit of this, we have decided to research Warp Films, which is a independent film company which has produced, you know, and distributed products for films such as This Is England and Dead Man's Shoes. Both films are made by Shane Meadows, who is a independent film director, and he, as again like ours, he makes his films in the local area. For example, Dead Man's Shoes is filmed in the Midlands, which, I mean, for us, is just down the road for us. And again, as young filmmakers, our group as filmmakers, but also as audience members, part of the research was to watch these films, and when we watched them, we thought, wow, that looks just like our housing estate. You know, that could happen. That could happen round the corner from us, and that is very much what we wanted to generate with our film as well. So we think that Warp would be a perfect example of a institution that could distribute our film. Most likely DVDs. We have created a poster as well, which will help in the advertising and distribution, and also the poster can double up as a DVD cover. I think that if we were to aim a little bit higher, I think that Lionsgate would be a perfect company, as they have distributed the Saw franchise and the Paranormal Activity franchise. And again, that's another thing we could hint at is, will there be a sequel to The Gunman? I think you'll agree that Gunman 2 has a slight ring to it. But again, it's another way of thinking about distribution and creating more films, and you know, how to continue on in this medium. But Lionsgate, yes, we chose them because they distributed Saw, and Saw is very much like The Gunman in the sense that it's isolation, threat, and it's very much a thriller. I think, again, maybe going even further from Lionsgate, because Lionsgate itself is one of the lower companies. Going, you know, all the way up to the top, I would say Warner Brothers would be something to think about, because although they do a lot of the huge budget American films, they also do the Harry Potter films, which are classed as Hollywood Britain. They are British films, but with the funding and the backing of the American companies. So the Harry Potter films have so much money and budget at their disposal. They can introduce CGI, get all the Hollywood actors in there, whereas we, as our smaller company, and we would need a small distribution company because we don't have the money for the big Hollywood actors. I mean, going right up to the top, I would say Universal and Inception is probably the biggest thriller film of recent times. But then again, I think if we were hired as directors, I don't know, and we got some of the funding, it would be great to make The Gunman into a bigger budget film, but that would also come with bigger budget expectations from the audience, as you know, they'd expect it to be set in a big city and have Leonardo DiCaprio running around chasing people. But that would conflict with our interests as filmmakers, as we want to go against the conventions of these big budget films. Therefore, the lower budget also presents an opportunity, because it allows us to really get creative and show what we can do, and we'd be aiming at a different sort of audience, as far as who'd maybe be more receptive to a change of pace, a change of location, and that is what we're trying to achieve with the opening to The Gunman.
Hi, I'm Matt, and I'm going to be looking at the question, who would your audience be for your media product? We're really looking at attracting young adults onwards, and it'll be really interesting to see how our ideology, which is reflected in the film, will affect those of the older ages. Our really big aim of ours was to get the audience, young and old, to really reflect and think about their beliefs after watching our film. Really, I think the audience as well would be mainly males, as we feature a predominantly male cast.